All right. Good morning. It's good to see you. I forgot to tell you also we had so many good announcements for moms. Our summer, I guess camp or VBS or whatever word you use, it's coming up June 21st to the 24th. June 21st to the 24th. I forgot to tell you about that. And our student camp is in process. So we were trying to get a save the date for you for junior and senior high, but we're still communicating with the campground, and we hope to have one to you very soon. So we have something for the little elementary age, and we'll have something for junior and senior high to announce to you pretty soon. So today I want to, obviously, we're doing this series called Baby Steps, and so I want to make that a part of the message. But also, I, of course, want to talk about moms. And I don't want to be cliche, but I thought I would start with Luke chapter 2, which is the story of Mary learning about her baby to be born. And so, as far as mothers go, I mean, you might as well start at the top, right? So Luke chapter 2, this is the story that angels have this moment where they come and they tell the shepherds what's going to happen, and the shepherds run and they find Mary and Joseph, and they tell Mary and Joseph all the things that they saw and that they heard. And it says in Luke chapter 2, it says, but Mary treasured up all of these things in her heart, and she pondered them, or she thought about them. So today, we're just going to talk about what goes on in a mother's heart. And if I can, I don't know, I was trying to think, I don't think I've ever actually done this in, 20 years of Orchard Grove, but I'm going to make mine a little personal today and just tell you some things that I'm thankful for that I got from my mom's heart. And I'll just start here, just so to give you a little perspective. We were poor, and I'll also say, I don't think I knew it at the time, but now I go, we were really poor. I don't know anybody grew up like me. I look back, and we had oftentimes. By the way, I'm telling you this for context, for appreciation for my mom, not for. I don't need any. I'm good. You know what I mean? I don't need his sympathy or whatever. And some of you grew up poorer than I did, I'm sure, by far. But I remember many times we would put socks on our hands. Anybody put socks on your hands for mittens? And then oftentimes in the winter, we didn't have boots, but we would take bread wrappers. Anybody do bread wrappers over your shoes? All right? And we would, do these kind of things. We did not ever go out to dinner. And Vicki was asking me about this. She was like, are you sure? Never? Of course you went out like once in a while. And I'm like, so I thought, because we miss a lot of things when we're kids. And I thought, well, maybe we did, and I didn't remember. But I'm telling you from my memory, never. And so we were down visiting my mom not too long ago, and I said, Mom, did we ever go out to dinner? And she goes, no, never. So confirmation, right? I remember when I was in, I think, first or second grade, and somehow the teacher in that grade took a liking to me, and the last day of school, she said, if you stay after school and help me put away the things in the classroom, I'll take you to Taco Bell. And I was for sure that Taco Bell had streets paved with gold. You know what I mean? Like, that was the promise. Are you kidding me? And so I was so happy to help, but then I was so shy that what I did was I put all the stuff away, and she went out in the hallway, and I ran all the way home because I was too nervous. And she came to the house, found me, and said, where did you go? And I made up some lie. And Then she took me to Taco Bell. But I don't think of my mom as a parent, and probably you can say this as well. Money had had zero to do with what I thought about when I thought about my mom being a good parent. And maybe there's a lesson for all of us there. You say, well, Chris, because you're older, now you look back. No, I mean, I'm sure I gave her a hard time now and then that I wanted something that someone else had, but I see kids do that because they have a $20,000 car and they're a car. So at the end of the day, it really has nothing to do with that. But we need some deeper things. And I thought I would just share like 3 things that my mom gave me that I look at as an incredible treasure from her heart. And the first one is patience. Now, I don't, like my mom's a patient person. She really is. But it's not like I think of, oh, that's her overarching characteristic. Or I can remember some times when she was incredibly patient. It's deeper than that. Parenting's brutal because it never quits. And it's difficult because everything you do takes an eternity. So like this morning, I just wanted to get my notes together, get dressed, and come talk to you. But insert a 2-year-old, right, who wants to go find her this and find her that. And have you noticed like they get attached to the weirdest things? Like she got a bunch of very nice little baby dolls for being born, I guess. And all these wonderful aunts and grandmas and people, she's just got a bank of dolls. And there's one doll that looks like a freak show. It's half bunny, half baby. I don't know how to say it. She calls it baby bunny. It's half bunny. That's weird. Why did you give it to her, first of all? And why is this the one that she wants every single day? Carries around with her, and it's supposed to be white, but it's kind of a brownish color now, everywhere. So she wakes up. Where is it? She fell asleep in the car last night, so we just took her straight to bed. Usually it needs to be in bed with her. She woke up. Where is it? Now we have to search frantically. Nothing else can happen. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? So I sat her down and I said, honey, today's Mother's Day, and it's a very big day at church for Dad, and why don't you just sit there and be a good girl while I get ready for church? Nothing else happens until we get baby bunny. Daddy, where's baby bunny, right? And then, and maybe you have more normal kids, but then she fell in love with a screw. It's this big. It's not sharp, but it's a screw, and she calls it her chocolate screw. She pretends it's chocolate. It's a very meaningful screw to her. So then we had to find that. Does anybody know how much time I wasted today? Does you have any idea how productive I could have been? And what we know is as we get older, we can't do it when we're young. We're too self-absorbed. We're too unaware. I'll give you a minute. We're too self-absorbed, too unaware. But when we get older, then we can look back and go, oh my word, the amount of time that you spent on me. Not because, don't think of some big meaningful thing where they sat there and waited 3 hours for you to do something. I am talking about every single day. Patience. They just quietly do their thing. They give, they serve. I would say it much like Mary. I mean, most of Mary's doing we don't know anything about. Whatever diapers looked like back then, whatever raising a child, she just did all of that stuff every single day with no fanfare, no Bible verses. She just did them. That patient every single day. If you think about it, that's the overriding characteristic of every mom. They just patiently do things. There's a lot of things that you just can't do fast. You can't do in a hurry. They just take a long time. It takes a long time if you're breastfeeding. It takes a long time. It takes a long time. But patience. I was trying to think, I'm trying to teach Charlie patience. So here's a funny thing. Because there's certain things that she has to wait for, that she just can't understand. Why do I have to wait? So for instance, she may be watching, she was watching like a movie, and then it plays all the time, but then she switched to a television and they have commercials. She went berserk. What is this? What is this? This is a commercial. You're going to have to wait. And she looked at me like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't wait for anything. And then, other things that come along in life, and you're trying to say, I have to teach you to be patient. You're going to have to wait. And so I couldn't think of she just, like, what are you talking about? I'm not waiting. So we tried counting. We call it counting now. We have to count. Oh, thank God I thought of that, because she likes to count. So the problem is, I need a lot more than 10 seconds. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Because when she gets to 8, 9, 10, there's a big 10 in the celebration, and things should start happening. Has anybody ever seen a 10-second commercial? And she can't count to 30. She can get to 13. After 13, it's always 16. I don't know why. So here's the thing. Patience and waiting. Let's be honest. It's the hardest thing that we do in life. So no, I think maybe there's something else I do that's harder, but maybe I would challenge you. I would challenge you, because I think if you really think about it, all the stuff that causes you angst, all the stuff that's really, really deep and difficult and challenging, it's probably centers around waiting, patience. And then you think of the countless, countless hours that moms are just patiently waiting. And I think of all the Bible verses that aren't there about Mary. It's the ones that aren't there about Mary, where just all of a sudden, he's 30 years old. People have been telling me, Chris, don't blink. Don't blink. It goes by fast. And I'm hearing them. I'm trying to absorb every part of it. But isn't that probably a key too? See, the idea behind baby steps is like, every step matters. You have to take the time to enjoy every single step. You have to recognize the value in every single step. And I think moms do that intuitively better than anyone. And so this sense that she's just there, which would be the other gift, that she was just present. Now, here again, I'll just be honest with you. I didn't grow up in the era where mom was at every game. I just didn't grow up there, all right? My mom used to always wish me well in my hockey games, to which I've never played hockey. So I didn't grow up in the era. I just didn't, and maybe you did, and good for you, and nothing right or wrong. I'm just saying, it's not because, why I'm saying this is because perfect isn't an option. And too many parents chase perfect, but perfect is not an option, but present. Not present like I'm there at every game, present in a deeper way, if you know what I mean. And sometimes we maybe get it mixed up a little bit. She wasn't the mom, she was no hovercopter, that's for sure. I tried to let her know loosely which neighborhood I might be in. I grew up in the streetlights era. Anybody? I don't even need to explain it to you. The rest of you, ask somebody older. But present, can I say this? In a deeper way. There's some gold there. I mean, it's possible that you are at, every game, but you're not present at all. Being present is a deeper thing. I'm not entirely sure of the entire relationship that Jesus had with his mother, but at the end, when he's crucified, she's there. Sometimes they're there in the ugly times, in the dark times, in the difficult times, when it's hardest to be present. Maybe all the other moms were there when their boys were getting their awards in Nazareth. I almost brought a picture, but I couldn't get it to translate so it looked good. But it was me with my mom and my brother when she was a den mother. My mom was a den mother for about 4 weeks. I think she got kicked out. I'm not sure. I never asked what happened. Maybe she wasn't doing all the crafts right. I don't know. I am no Eagle Scout, right? I am not an Eagle Scout. I think I got one badge, right? And so if you wanted to judge, you'd say, well, boy, she just didn't cross the finish line. She's not the, but do you get what I'm saying? Like there's a deeper kind of present. So maybe she wasn't there for all the pictures. Maybe she wouldn't be the Facebook queen. But she was present in a deeper way. Maybe the way that Mary was for Jesus. But the third thing I say, because I think this is the most important, my mom knew what to pass on and what not to pass on. This will take a minute here. In Deuteronomy, I think it's chapter 5 or so, it talks about these sins visiting the third and fourth generation. And many people have tried to explain this verse, and it certainly can't mean that if one guy sinned, he's the great-great-great-grandpa, that somehow you are responsible for it. But somehow we oftentimes are affected by it. In other words, things just get passed down. Bad habits get passed down. Good habits get passed down. Quirky things get passed down. Telling the same story 7 times at Christmas gets passed down. We pass things down, third and fourth generation. And when things are negative, they often get passed down. Listen. Something didn't go well in your life. And so you harbor bitterness, you harbor resentment, you have anger, whatever it is. And oftentimes, it gets passed to the next generation. And you go, why are they like that? Why are they doing that? Sometimes what we have to realize is what happens to us affects us, and then we pass it. We hand it to the next generation. Sometimes we don't even know that we're doing it. It's the way we were affected or the way we were treated, and then it does something to us, and then we hand it to them. And some people have the ability to take what was handed to them that was negative and process it. The verse we began with, it says, Mary pondered these things in her heart. She treasured them. Later on, Jesus is taken and dedicated in the temple, and a man named Simeon is there, and he gives this prophetic message to Mary, and he says, and a sword will pierce your own soul. chilling words for a young mom. A sword is going to pierce your soul. You're going to carry some pain. What we often do with our pain is we transmit it. Now, I wouldn't have even known about the pain in my mom's life because, as far as I can tell, she transmitted zero of it. But she had to process it. She had to process it somehow. Things that happened in her life. You pass it on or you process it. That little verse that we started with, I think, is a revolutionary idea that when you have things, you take them in your heart and you process them. To this day, people are passing on things or they're processing them. They're passing them on or they're processing them. And that really becomes your choice. And by the way, it's probably not an accident that the cross is a key symbol for us, because what happens for us is when negative comes to us, like Jesus, he took it on himself. It says he received it, but he didn't pass it on. He didn't retaliate. He didn't need to. He could assimilate it. I don't know if there's anything more courageous than that. I was reading the story about the first female head of state in Africa, Liberia. And it was born out of a terrible, terrible situation where there was constant fighting in this country, and they had one civil war after another. And what they do is one person would, might be my microphone. All right, I'm good. One person would lead a revolt and say, these leaders are terrible, and then it would be a bloody revolt, and then the next person would come in, and the next person would come in, and then there were like 3 ladies that got together. One of them, she was a 17-year-old girl, and she started to study peace movements. What's a peace movement? And as a 17-year-old, she began to say to herself, I think the women are going to be the key to taking our country out of this cycle of violence. And so she got together with some other women, and she was working in this peace movement, and one day she fell asleep at her desk, and she woke up, had a dream. And in the dream, this is what she heard. God said to her, gather as many women as you can and pray. Pray for peace. Years later, she received a Nobel Peace Prize, and she was asked why her counterpart was elected the first female president, and she was asked, why did your movement work and all the others fail? And this is what she said. Listen to this. She said, I think the women knew how to receive pain and not pass it on. And the men didn't. The men, when they received pain, they needed to make someone else pay. And therefore, it was a constant cycle of violence. That's pretty deep. You see, it's the cycle. That's what Deuteronomy was talking about. When this happens, then I need to pay someone else. I mean, what happens to you when someone cuts you off in traffic? What happens? Your blood pressure changes, things happen, and you need to do something. At least yell. Because when I receive something, I have to pass it on. And you see what had to happen for this cycle to break, for a country to be liberated. I mean, people just being slaughtered left and right. Some of these civil wars were so bloody. And these women just came in there. And one of the ladies who was a part of the movement, she was feeding one of the soldiers. And he was badly wounded, and when he sort of came to, he said to her, looked at her, how is your daughter? She said, well, my daughter was killed in the war. And he said, I know, I killed her. She continued to feed him, continued to care for him. Why? Because she said, this is the only way out. It's the only way out. Who does that remind you of? Jesus, the cross. It's the only way out. It's the only salvation when you take it, but you don't pass it on. Receive the sins of the world to himself, not to pass it on. Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. They receive it, not to pass it on. Later, you get older in life and you learn some things that could have been passed on. And then you see the courage of the people that refused to do it. I'm not going to pass that on. I don't want my kid to, she doesn't need to carry that. You know, there's another little passage, and my mom was also brave, and I love that Vicky's doing this study with the ladies about being brave, because I think that's what this is all about. And the other area that she was really brave was in her faith. Now, many of you have been around, you heard me talk about my grandma. My grandma gave me the container, the Bible. You know, she bought me my first Bible, and it was very good. It was my mom who took the next layer. It was my mom. You know, there's a story in Mark where the disciples are eating and they gather, and it says, I think in Mark chapter 7, that these men came from Jerusalem. And they came from Jerusalem, they're like the religious police, right? They're spying on Jesus. I think he's breaking some rules. And the disciples are coming in, and they don't wash well before they eat. And so they broke protocol, or they broke the law. And they questioned Jesus. Why aren't your disciples washing their hands carefully? And they should be washing these pitchers and these bowls, and they have all these ceremonial things that they were supposed to do to please the system, the religious system. And Jesus says, you know, Isaiah was right about you guys. He's like, you do all the outward stuff, but your hearts are in the wrong place. Your hearts aren't in it. You're doing all this external stuff, but see, my mom took it to the level of the heart. That's where some people take it. And Jesus said this, you ignore God's word for this, substitute your own traditions. These are the traditions, are the things that you pass on. Now, nothing wrong with handing on a tradition to your children. A lot of religion is tradition. Well, this is this, and we just hand them on. But if you don't do the layer down, then you're missing something. See, my mom, she could filter what to leave, what to take. This is gold if you'll get it. Everybody gets handed a set of something. You get a set of blueprints. Here's our faith. Here's our tradition. Here's our religion. And you may find a little fault with some of it, so you just throw the whole thing out. This is all a bunch of nonsense. That's not going to help anybody. Or you swallow all the external stuff, but you miss the inside. What Jesus could do was he could filter it. You know, the gift that my mom gave me was that she could filter it at much cost to her to break the tradition, like it was a cost to Jesus. She didn't follow all of the... You know why? There was some people that had all the externals, but they didn't have it here. So she could break from it. This is important. This is a gift. And this is what Jesus was saying to these. He said, you have all of these traditions, but you miss the internal part. You miss what it's really all about. I think it was that pondering thing. Treasuring and pondering. Mary she could just roll these things around. Maybe I'll pass this along, but maybe I won't pass this along. You know, that's a gift. There's a lot of people leaving faith altogether because we're passing the wrong things down. We're dying on the wrong hill. It's the externals. It's washing of cups. Washing instead of internal. Anybody here ever tripped in public? Isn't the worst? Some of you guys are too cool. I have no idea what you're talking about. I have no idea. So, just hang around a while. It'll happen, right? And if you're fortunate, you kind of catch yourself, but it's still embarrassing. It's usually because we're too many steps ahead of ourselves. We're assuming this step's fine, and we're not thinking about this step. We're about down here. See? The most important step is the one that you're taking now. That's what matters the most. It's what you're doing now. And the gift is that you can get into the moment, get into right now. This is what matters right now. And the gift that moms give is they're here. They're in it. And we are so grateful to our moms for that. Maybe someday, I haven't talked a lot about it, but maybe someday, it would be worthy of a lot more. But when I see the courage of people like my mom who could break away but still keep it in here, that's the ultimate courage to me. That's the ultimate courage. And Jesus, of course, he was ostracized, and eventually he was killed and crucified for his breaking away. But it didn't change because he knew what was most important. And guess what? It was all the outsiders and the stragglers and the people of ill repute that started following and surrounding Jesus because they had no chance of doing the religion right. But he could see past that and see to the heart. Man looks on the outward appearance, but God sees the what? Heart. Before we leave today, I would like for you to think about, what are the good things that your mom has passed on to you? And maybe today, when you pick up the phone and you say Happy Mother's Day or whatever, maybe you could mention a couple of those. Say, I want to thank you, Mom, for passing this on to me. And as you get older, you probably will become aware of some things that she thankfully did not pass on to you. You get to say, Mom, thank you that you didn't need to pass this on to me. And then before we close in prayer, what are the things that you want to pass on? What are they? I mean, the things that deep down. A lot of times, you're talking to your kids and they look like they are paying zero attention. And oftentimes they are. But somehow it just seeps in because you can think back in your life of all the times that you were rolling your eyes, but you still had your ears open. So what are you going to pass on? Like Mary, you process, and then you have to decide, here's what I'm going to pass on. Let's stand. We'll have a closing prayer together. Dear God, thank you so much for your unfailing love for us. As we said today, we're here to say thank you to the moms in our life for all the good that they brought to us. Because perfect isn't an option. We thank you for good. We thank you for love. We thank you for their grace. We thank you for the good things that they've passed on to us. We thank you for the things that they somehow absorbed and refused to pass on. And God, today, we pray that you will inspire us to process in our own heart